The grand architect of galactic security rubbed the spot where their optical stalks met their cranial ridge, the universal gesture for bureaucratic frustration. 300 cycles of meticulous planning, 14 subcommittee hearings, and enough paperwork to deforest an entire moon, all culminating in what the architect firmly believed was the most brilliant solution to the human question. "You want to turn their entire planet into a prison?" asked Under-Administrator Vex, whose species communicated disbelief by rapidly changing skin pigmentation. Currently, Vex was cycling through shades of chartreuse and mauve at an alarming frequency. "Not want to, going to," corrected the architect. "The containment field launches in approximately 43 Earth rotations." The meeting chamber of the Galactic Convergence hummed with an orchestra of concerned murmurs, clicks, telepathic broadcasts, and one particularly distressed methane belch. "Forgive my bluntness," began Representative Dawes of the Crystalline Communion, whose people considered bluntness a high diplomatic art. "But have you bothered to study human history? Their entire civilization consists of escape artists, rule breakers, and beings who view regulations as personal challenges." The architect waved a dismissive appendage through the holographic display of Earth, causing the blue-green sphere to spin dramatically. "Precisely why traditional diplomatic sanctions have failed. Humans cannot be intimidated, bribed, or reasoned with. Every species we've introduced to the convergence has followed a predictable pattern of integration. Not humans. So your solution is to place an energy field around their solar system, a field they can neither penetrate nor detect?" The question came from a cloud of sentient vapor drifting near the ceiling. "The barrier will be completely undetectable to their primitive instruments," confirmed the architect. "The humans will continue believing they're alone in the universe, while we observe from a safe distance. No interstellar travel for them, no contamination of galactic culture for us." What nobody mentioned, out of politeness or perhaps blind self-preservation, was the incident that truly precipitated this decision. 3 diplomatic missions to Earth had ended with the ambassadorial ships returning filled with unauthorized human passengers who had somehow smuggled themselves aboard. The latest mission returned with an entire human family who claimed they were just looking for the bathroom and accidentally spent 5 weeks hiding in a maintenance shaft. The Committee of Xenobiological Psychology suggests this approach may backfire spectacularly, noted a hive mind representative whose trillion constituents had voted unanimously against the proposal. "Humans evolved on a death world, where confinement equals death. Their response to imprisonment is invariably escape or revolution." The architect projected a series of equations across the chamber. "We've accounted for every variable. The barrier technology incorporates elements that actively discourage curiosity. Humans who approach the edge of their system will experience a subtle neurological nudge to turn back, a sense of disinterest. They'll never know they're trapped." "And the monitoring stations?" asked Vex. "Cloaked and positioned at strategic points throughout their system. We'll collect centuries of behavioral data without interference. Perhaps eventually, when they've evolved beyond their chaotic tendencies, we might reconsider their status." What the architect failed to mention was the true purpose behind these monitoring stations. Yes, they would observe human behavior, but primarily to ensure the containment technology remained functional. The Galactic Convergence was creating the most sophisticated prison in known space, then walking away and hoping the inmates would never notice their bars. The resolution passed with the typical margin for controversial measures. Narrow enough to deny overwhelming consensus, but wide enough to grant plausible legitimacy. Within weeks, specialized ships deployed the network of field generators throughout the Sol system. When the containment field activated, sensors indicated no detectable reaction from Earth. Humans continued their daily lives, oblivious to their new status as prisoners of the Galactic Convergence. The architect authorized the withdrawal of all alien presence from the system, leaving only the automated monitoring stations. The first anomaly appeared just 17 Earth days after activation. "Explain," demanded the architect, staring at the alert notification. The monitoring specialist looked perplexed. A human space vessel approached the edge of the containment field as expected. The neurological dampeners activated as designed, but instead of turning back, Lady recalibrated their sensors and accelerated directly toward the field boundary. The architect blinked all 5 eyes in sequence. "That should be impossible." The specialist's voice wavered. "Should I inform the Convergence that humans can detect neurological manipulation?" The architect hesitated just a moment too long. "No. This is merely an outlier. The system will function as designed." By the end of the Earth month, similar incidents had occurred 14 more times. Senior xenoanthropologist Hughes adjusted the multiphasic viewer, squinting through compound eyes at data that defied every prediction. 6 months into what colleagues had dubbed the Human Terrarium Project, the observation team had abandoned their neat categorization systems 3 times already. "You need to see this," Kut called to research director Nim, who floated across the monitoring station on gravitational repulsors. The director extended a sensory tendril toward the display. Another anomaly. Worse, a pattern. Katz highlighted a cluster of human spacecraft now orbiting what should have been an unremarkable region of space. These vessels appear randomly distributed to casual observation, but their formation maps perfectly to the energy signature of our containment node. Director Nim's respiratory sacs deflated slowly. "That's the 3rd node they've located, without even detecting it." "Perhaps coincidence," offered junior analyst Roll, fresh from the academy and still clinging to optimism with admirable tenacity. Kutz and Nem exchanged the universal look, shared by experienced professionals, confronted with naive subordinates. "The humans have designated this area Gravity Anomaly X7522, continued Kutz. "Their communications indicate they've mapped similar anomalies throughout their system. They've launched 63 exploration missions specifically to investigate these points." Nim gestured toward another display. "And what exactly are they doing at these locations?" "Nothing alarming," replied Kuth with artificial nonchalance. "Simply bombarding our invisible, supposedly undetectable containment nodes with every wavelength of radiation in their scientific repertoire." Ral's dorsal plumes bristled. "They're testing for reactions. Methodically." "Congratulations," Kutz muttered. "You've identified the problem that's cost me 3 sleep cycles." The observation station orbited beyond the containment field, hidden behind Neptune's largest moon. From this position, xenoanthropologists had expected to document human civilization's gradual acceptance of their cosmic limitations. The working theory suggested that after multiple failed attempts to venture beyond certain boundaries, the species would develop cultural mythology about forbidden zones, or incorporate these barriers into their religions. Instead, humans had formed a multi-echelon scientific task force, specifically to investigate what they called gravitational aberrations. Their instruments couldn't detect the containment field directly, but they'd noticed subtle effects on light, radiation, and matter. Effects the Convergence had deemed too insignificant for primitive technology to measure. "The administrator needs to see this," Nem decided, summoning a communication portal. The administrator's many-eyed visage appeared, looking distinctly unrested. "Let me guess. More troubling human behavior. They've mapped approximately 26% of our containment architecture, NEM reported. At current progression, they'll have identified every node within 14 months. The administrator's eye stalks drooped slightly. Identifying and neutralizing are different matters. The field remains impenetrable. With respect, Cutes interjected, humans demonstrate cognitive patterns we've never encountered. When faced with a boundary, most species eventually accept its existence. Humans treat boundaries as puzzles to solve. Elaborate. The administrator's tone carried the weight of someone who'd been hearing variations of this conversation with increasing frequency. Cutes pulled up footage from Earth's information networks. Human entertainment focuses excessively on escape scenarios, prison breaks, boundary crossings, forbidden exploration. Their fictional narratives obsess over circumventing limitations. Cultural peculiarities don't concern us, the administrator dismissed. This should, Raoul said, displaying newly intercepted transmissions. Human scientists have begun firing specialized probes at the field boundary. The administrator leaned forward. The field will destroy them. It doesn't, Cutes corrected. The probes disintegrate, yes, but the humans are gathering data from the disintegration process. They're mapping the exact frequency and energy signature of our containment technology. Silence enveloped the communication portal. Finally, the administrator asked, "How long before they develop countermeasures?" NIMD consulted probability calculations. Based on their technological progression curve, approximately 30 Earth years. Acceptable, the administrator decided. The containment field is designed to last centuries. An alarm blared through the observation station. The distinctive tone of a proximity alert. All eyes turned to tactical displays. "Impossible," whispered Raoul. A human vassal had appeared without warning, barely 5,000 units from their location. The craft was unlike any human design previously catalogued. Asymmetrical, bristling with makeshift sensor arrays, and powered by what appeared to be a crude adaptation of quantum acceleration principles humans shouldn't have discovered for another century. They've reverse-engineered propulsion technology from studying the field's effects, Cutes realized aloud. They detected the energy leakage from our observation station and built a ship specifically to investigate. The human vassal transmitted no communications. It simply hovered, scanning with increasingly precise targeting beams. "They can't see us," the administrator insisted. "Our cloaking technology is being systematically probed by frequencies that match our exact vulnerability thresholds," Neem interrupted, genuine alarm vibrating through their voice. "They've somehow deduced the precise method to detect our presence." The human vassal adjusted position, orienting camera arrays directly at the observation station's exact coordinates. "Terminate observation," ordered the administrator. "Relocate immediately." As the station initiated emergency protocols, Cutes continued watching the human vessel. Just before transmission ended, the xenoanthropologist glimpsed something that would haunt their nightmares for cycles to come. A human figure standing at a viewport, looking directly at their hidden position, raising what appeared to be a beverage container in a gesture that required no cultural translation. A toast to finding what shouldn't be found. Emergency Session 47 of the Galactic Convergence, Security Council broke several records. Shortest opening remarks, highest attendance, and most stress-induced molting among reptilian representatives. 5 Earth years had passed since the first observation station's hasty relocation. The situation has progressed beyond containment strategies to crisis management, announced the newly appointed crisis coordinator, a being composed entirely of crystallized logic and mounting dread. Holographic displays surrounding the chamber showed real-time feeds from the Sol system. Humans have transitioned from detecting our technology to actively subverting it. "Define subverting?" demanded a counselor from the gas giant delegation, their atmospheric chamber fogging with anxiety. The coordinator gestured, expanding one particular feed. This footage shows human exploration vessels deliberately triggering containment field flares, then harvesting the energy discharge. "Energy parasitism?" asked another counselor. "Worse. Systematic study. They've constructed 57 field laboratories at node points. Each lab documents the field's reaction to different stimuli." An intelligence analyst stepped forward, one of the few remaining specialists still willing to study human behavior directly. "Our latest intercepts reveal humans don't perceive the field as a barrier, but as a discovery. Their scientific community refers to it as the network, a naturally occurring phenomenon they're eager to understand." The coordinator's crystalline structure darkened with stress fractures. "They've turned our prison walls into their research project." "Perhaps we should simply dismantle the field," suggested a representative from the diplomatic corps, earning immediate hisses from security-minded counselors. "And let them loose upon the galaxy?" The defense minister's exoskeleton clattered with indignation. "The field remains our only protection against human expansion." "Correction, they're actively dismantling," countered the intelligence analyst. "Human scientific output concerning the network has increased 7,000%. They formed a unified planetary research initiative, unprecedented cooperation among their previously fragmented governance structures. Collective consciousness representatives, beings who struggled to comprehend human individualism, flashed signals of distress. How can they achieve consensus without shared neural architecture?" "Common enemy," the analyst replied simply. "Or, in this case, common mystery. Nothing unifies humans like an external challenge. By attempting to confine them, we've inadvertently given them a focus for collaboration." The coordinator displayed fresh data. "This energy signature indicates humans have successfully replicated a miniature version of our containment technology." Stunned silence enveloped the chamber. "Impossible," breathed the defense minister. "The principles behind the field require understanding of 11-dimensional physics, which they've apparently reverse-engineered by poking our field with sticks and measuring the results," replied the coordinator with bitter admiration. "Their approach lacks elegance, but compensates with relentless experimentalism." The intelligence analyst brought up intercepted blueprints. "Humans call their version bubble drive technology. They're already installing prototypes on next-generation spacecraft." "To what end?" asked the diplomatic representative. "Based on communications we've intercepted," began the analyst, pausing as though reluctant to continue. "They believe bubble technology will enable them to slip between dimensional barriers. They're going to phase through our containment field," the coordinator concluded, crystalline body now threaded with fracture lines. The defense minister activated emergency protocols. "We must reinforce the field, triple the energy matrix, add redundant barrier layers." "With respect," interrupted the intelligence analyst, "such actions would only accelerate human progress. Each enhancement we add provides them with more data about how the technology functions. Their adaptive capacity feeds on our countermeasures." "Then what do you suggest?" demanded the minister. "Direct contact, diplomatic engagement, explain the situation and negotiate terms before they break through on their own." The suggestion met with derisive hoots, telepathic mockery, and one counselor spontaneously molting their entire exoskeleton in shock. "We cannot reveal ourselves," insisted the defense minister. "The containment protocol exists precisely to prevent such contamination." "Then we are facing an extinction-level event for our way of life," stated the analyst bluntly. "Human innovation moves exponentially when challenged. Our latest models predict field breach within 7 Earth months." "Preposterous," scoffed the minister. "Even with their progress, they cannot possibly—" A priority alert interrupted, flashing with emergency authentication codes. The coordinator accessed the incoming transmission, face darkening to nearly black. "What is it?" asked the diplomatic representative. "The observation outpost near Jupiter has detected a containment field breach. Small, localized, but definitive. A human test vessel successfully penetrated the barrier 12 minutes ago." "And," prompted the minister, voice hollow. "It transmitted a single message before disappearing from our sensors. The message was directed not at Earth, but at our monitoring station." "What did it say?" whispered a counselor. The coordinator displayed the transmission, simplified alpha-genetic code aligned with basic galactic translation protocols. "Thanks for the challenge. Door unlocked. Coming out to play." The Grand Hall of Convergence, once the proud center of galactic governance, now resembled an overcrowded emergency shelter. Representatives from 87 worlds crammed into spaces designed for dignified deliberation, now hosting panicked strategy sessions. Displays tracked the unfolding catastrophe, humanity's exodus from their prison. 15,000 ships, announced the newly formed Human Containment Failure Analysis Director, a title created 3 days prior during what historians would later call the Great Galactic Panic. They're not just escaping, they're colonizing. Most disturbing wasn't the number of vessels, but their design. Human ships incorporated modified containment field technology, warped and repurposed into something entirely new. The barrier meant to cage them had become their launching mechanism. "How did this happen?" demanded the Supreme Counselor, an ancient being whose 9 previous life cycles had witnessed supernovas with more composure than they now displayed. A disheveled physicist manipulated holographic equations. "They treated our dimensional barriers as trampolines. The ships compress space ahead and expand it behind, essentially surfing the ripples in our own containment field." "That's not possible," insisted a theoretical energy specialist. "Evidently," replied the physicist dryly, "nobody informed the humans." The Supreme Counselor studied footage of human vessels establishing outposts across 3 neighboring star systems. "What are their demands?" "That's just it," said the intelligence chief, whose department had been working continuously since the breach. "They haven't made any. No ultimatums, no declarations of war. Not even requests for diplomatic recognition." "What do they want, then?" The intelligence chief displayed intercepted transmissions. "Based on their communications, they're treating this as an adventure. Their vessels broadcast messages like First Human Interstellar Exploration Core and Operation New Horizon. They don't behave like escaped prisoners. They act like pioneers." "They don't even realize we imprisoned them," murmured an anthropological expert. "They think they discovered a natural phenomenon and mastered it." The defense minister, whose career wouldn't survive the night, accessed emergency protocols. "We must establish contact before they spread further. Attempt negotiation while mobilizing the fleet." "About that fleet," interrupted a military coordinator. 3 battle groups attempted to intercept the human vessels near the Proxima system. The humans invited them aboard for something called coffee. When our commanders declined, the humans shrugged, waved, and continued their expansion activities. They don't recognize our ships as military threats. They're treating them as potential neighborhood welcome committees. The Supreme Counselor's color faded. This defies all conflict protocols. Because it isn't conflict to them, said the intelligence chief. Our preliminary assessment suggests humans view this as a technological revolution, not a prison break. They're genuinely excited to meet other species. After we caged them like animals? They don't know that. Remember, we disguised the containment field. As far as humans understand, they've simply overcome a puzzling, natural barrier through scientific ingenuity. A communication specialist rushed into the chamber. Priority message from human exploratory vessel designated Tenacity. They're requesting... Surrender terms? Asked the defense minister grimly. No. They're requesting building permits. The chamber erupted. They want to establish a human embassy district and begin cultural exchange programs, continued the specialist, reading directly from the transmission. They've attached architectural designs and proposed event schedules for something called Earth Culture Festivals. They're especially eager to share something called pizza. This is psychological warfare, insisted the defense minister. The intelligence chief studied the human message. No, this is genuine enthusiasm. They've dreamed of cosmic neighbors for centuries. Finding us is literally the fulfillment of their oldest collective hope. What happens when they discover the truth? Asked the Supreme Counselor. When they learn we imprisoned them? The intelligence chief's expression darkened. Based on human historical responses to deception and containment, we should avoid that revelation at all costs. Too late. A final emergency alert flashed across all displays. A human vessel had breached the central control hub for the containment field network, a facility whose location was supposed to be impossible to determine. Live footage showed humans examining the massive control mechanisms. A figure in an exploration suit stood before the central terminal, studying ancient convergence text. "Can they read our language?" whispered the counselor. "Impossible," assured a cultural expert. "Our script requires telepathic." The human reached out, tapped a sequence, and the entire containment field system powered down. Across the display, the human turned toward the surveillance feed. Despite the reflective visor, everyone present somehow felt the explorer looking directly at them. The figure raised a hand and made a universal gesture of greeting. The communications channel activated. A voice, translated through emergency protocols, filled the chamber. "So, interesting setup you have here. Roughly translates to human containment system. Funny thing about putting a species in a cage, eventually they learn everything about the cage. We've downloaded your complete historical archives. We know everything now." The Supreme Counselor activated emergency communications. On behalf of the Galactic Convergence. "Save it," interrupted the human. "We're not interested in apologies or explanations. But here's what happens next. We're keeping the technology, all of it, and we're coming to visit, all of us. After all, you went to such lengths to keep us out. Must be something really worth seeing." The human paused, then continued with unmistakable amusement. "Next time you want to contain a species, consider this. The universe doesn't build walls to keep dangers in. It builds walls to protect what's outside. So tell me, which side of this barrier were you really on?" The Convergence representatives glanced at each other as the truth dawned. They hadn't turned Earth into a prison planet. They'd merely locked themselves outside humanity's front door. And now that door was wide open.